Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, February 13th, 2019 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission is a citizen advisory group to the City Council charged with making recommendations concerning land use plans, planning processes, and/or on matters of plan implementation. All regular meetings of the Planning and Zoning Commission are recorded for record retention and transcription. The following is the official agenda of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Discussion and commission action will be limited to those items on the agenda. Any citizen who wishes to address the commission shall first be recognized by the chair and shall give his or her name and address for the record. If a citizen wishes to read documentation of any sort to the commission, he or she shall first seek permission from the chair. Oral testimony may be restricted to no more than 3 minutes per person. Agenda item number 1 is the roll call and disclosure of conflict of interest, ex parte communication, and site visit. Aislinn, if we could have you call the roll, and commissioners, if each of you would state your name, what area you are from, and then anything that you may need to disclose.
Jared Burns.
My name is Jared Burnt. I live up in the Highland area. I made visits to agenda item number 3, number 4, number 5, and I have nothing to report.
Jack Moore.
My name's Jack Moore, and I live in the Old Town District, and I have nothing else to report.
Sarah O'Connor.
My name is Sarah O'Connor. I live in the college neighborhood, and I have nothing to report.
Dorothy Ricks.
My name is Dorothy Ricks. I live in the Alameda area. I did make visits as well to the specific areas. Numbers in my head are not very good right now. But just to let you know I did, and I have nothing else to report.
Julia Sanders.
My name is Julia Sanders. I live in the South Park area. I've previously completed site visits to agenda items 3, 4, and 5 and have nothing else to report.
Ryan Satterfield.
I'm Ryan Satterfield from the Highland area. I also did site visits to item 3, 4, and 5, and have nothing else to report.
And Richard Larson is unexcused this evening.
Thank you, Aislinn. All right, agenda item number 2 is approval of minutes. Commissioners, the items before you, comments or motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Very good. There's been a motion and a second. Aislinn, would you call the vote?
Is that seconded by Julia?
No, Sarah.
Sarah.
Moore.
Yes.
O'Connor.
Yes.
Burnt.
Yes.
Larson. Ricks.
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
Satterfield.
Yes, motion carries. Agenda item number 3, Northgate Tax Increment Financing Plan. In compliance with the Idaho Urban Renewal Law of 1965, Chapter 20, Title 50 Idaho Code as amended, and the Local Economic Development Act, Chapter 29, Title 50 Idaho Code as amended, the Urban Renewal Plan for the Northgate Urban Renewal Project adopted by the Pocatello Development Authority on December 19th, 2018, pursuant to Agency Resolution 2018-03, will be presented to the Commission for review and determination as to its conformity with the City of Pocatello Comprehensive Plan. So, Melanie, if we could have you come up and discuss this with us.
Certainly. Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Melanie Gigley. I am the Director of the Planning and Development Services for the City of Pocatello. In that capacity, I am also the Executive Director for the Pocatello Development Authority. In your packets is, and it's huge, the Urban Renewal Plan for the Northgate Urban Renewal Project. Pocatello Development Authority, at the direction of the Pocatello City Council, has been working to develop this plan for the last approximately 14 months. It is before you now for a determination as to its conformity with the city's comprehensive plan. The plan area covers approximately 1,800 acres, comprising the area being called the Northgate District. Approximately 300 acres of those have been annexed into the City of Pocatello boundaries. The rest remains largely within the county. The new interchange, which is already under construction, also would be within this TIF district. Within the plan are the projects that are anticipated to be completed with TIF funds, and I've listed those in the analysis in my staff report. These generally comprise major infrastructure such as streets, sewer, and water lines. Also included are streetscape amenities such as landscaping, public art, and the like. Park areas and pathways may also be constructed. As staff has worked with the PDA in the development of the plan, it is our finding that it is in overall conformity with the provisions of the comprehensive plan. I have called out specifically some of the goals, objectives, and the policy most directly in support. Following this body's review, there are still steps to be taken before the plan will be considered by the City Council, including transfer of powers agreements with Chubbuck and with Bannock County. The City Council's hearing is tentatively scheduled for April 4th or 18th, depending on how quickly we're able to move through some of these steps. I know that's very brief. It doesn't discuss a lot about what tax increment financing is or does, and I'm happy to answer some of those questions if you like. But at that point, I'll leave it to you. That's my presentation unless I can't answer questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions that we have for Melanie on this item? I guess I'll start off with a question.
Okay.
Are there examples or have there been past districts that PDA has done that do encompass properties outside of the municipal area?
I believe when the property, we call it North Portneuf District, that is where Hoku was going to be. When the process started, I believe it was still within the county.
Okay.
Ultimately, it has been annexed. Prior to any development of this land, the intention is to annex it as development moves forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Other questions, commissioners? Julia.
Quick question. So in one of the resolutions, it says, whereas Idaho Code provides that an urban renewal agency cannot exercise jurisdiction over any area outside of the city limits without approval. Has this been done? There's just a lot of legalese in here, and I might have missed it.
There is.
Okay.
No, it has not. There is a lot of legalese. No, it has not been done. Right now, anticipated timeline is the city of Chubbuck will consider what we call an intergovernmental agreement, excuse me, and a transfer of powers ordinance at their meeting a week from tonight. That's because a portion of the district that covers the east side of the interchange is within the TIF, but due to a recent annexation by Chubbuck, it's actually in Chubbuck city limits. So we have to go to them for that. And then tentatively, we are scheduled to do the similar thing with Bannock County at their meeting, at a commissioner meeting on the 26th, where they will also consider an intergovernmental agreement and a transfer of powers ordinance. So it's not done yet. This is just generally a precursor to that.
Okay. So we're not out of our bounds by doing this?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Other questions?
I just have a question. What are the normal oppositions to this that you would see?
Oppositions, it's harder for me to answer because I know how well they could work, but I think sometimes a concern is raised that what is tax money is used for only an area rather than flowing to all of the taxing districts. Because whatever is created beyond the base that sits there now will flow to the Pocatello Development Authority, with the exception of the school district, which will receive its fundings. And that money will be used for specific plant projects. It will not flow to Bannock County or to the city of Pocatello, or there's 4 or 5 different taxing districts. That's probably the main concern that people raise. On the other hand, that increment allows us to do a lot of things that may not ever happen otherwise. A great example of a TIF district we have right now is what we call the North Yellowstone, originally formed in 2004. This is where Costco is. That's probably the big names, Costco and Lowe's. That district was formed. The streets were put in, traffic signals were improved, a lot of the landscaping, sidewalks and sewer lines, water lines, the whole bit. Would that have happened if we didn't have that money to bond and put in those roads? Unknown, maybe, but certainly not in the timeline that it has. And with the increase in valuation, which is approaching 80 million, and honestly, we're going to close that one this year probably, and that money then flows, that increase then flows to the taxing districts.
Now, but the base tax does go to the city, or does
The
that?
base taxes go to the existing taxing districts.
Okay, so there will be some money
There
going
will
out.
be some money, yes.
There's a non-discrimination little section in there. But it does not include LGBT or, which is not in conformity with the Pocatello, what is it?
You know, I can bring that up with the attorney. That clause is based on Idaho code.
I realize
But
that.
I can certainly bring that
Because
up.
Pocatello does have the non-discrimination ordinance. Is there any way that we can get that in there?
You know, I don't know the answer to that because that part may be strictly based on what Idaho code tells us to do, but I will certainly pass that comment on to our attorneys in Boise and to the PDA.
Other questions?
I have one question. So this money is going back into the development. And I saw on the plats that some parts of it are private roads and stuff. If, for instance, the development was sold, would they just have all those improvements and we wouldn't have any access to it as who aren't in the city, who aren't in that development?
Anything that's private, boy, I'm not sure how to, let me give that a little bit of thought. Pretty much all of the projects that are called out here are for public infrastructure.
Okay, so not the private road.
Not the private roads, and in general, not even the smaller residential type roads. This is going to be like the extension of Olympus, Northgate Parkway going up way up the hill eventually, and the big pipes in the road. And it can be used for the more public or semi-public, public-private utilities, that kind of thing. But they're generally for the public purposes. You know, a public park, you know, I referenced the fact that there's money set aside for a potential fire station, which then is a publicly supported amenity.
Julia?
I have a few more.
Okay.
So when it comes to the TIF funds, are all the funds allocated only for this TIF project, or could it go to any of the other projects? Does that make sense?
It has to be in this TIF area.
Okay, so
Yes.
Northgate Fund is Northgate Fund.
It's Northgate Fund.
Okay. And then I had a question about the owner participation agreements. So when we say owner participation, are we talking about the people that currently hold the land? Or are we talking about business owners in the future, homeowners in the future in that area?
The owner participation agreements will be between the PDA and the people developing the infrastructure. For instance, if you're building Road A and Port of Development, sorry to pick on you, paid it, built the road, the agreement will be between the PDA and the Port of Development as to reimbursement.
Okay, so once it's developed, it has nothing to do with so-and-so wants to open a boutique, whatever?
No.
Okay.
No.
Why were the four, little parcels that the Katsumidis, that little area, why were those excluded? May I ask?
The owners, one of the things that has to go on, and there may be other reasons and I don't know, but one of the things that has to happen with land that has been agricultural is those owners have to give consent. It's called the ag consents, and you can see them in here in some pile here. Those owners preferred not to participate, didn't sign the ag consents, so their land is exempt. And if they had other reasons, I'm not privy to.
Can you talk to us a little bit about amending the TIF in time and what options and opportunities there are?
Very little. I'm not going to be able to tell you the exact year. The legislature changed the urban renewal laws and shortened it. For one thing, we can only go 20 years. They used to be able to go as long as 30. The other is you basically can't amend. There's some very minor provisions, but the short answer is you cannot amend because you reset your base and then you've lost your increment. So for the most part, what you see here is what will remain. I think you can expand by 10%. I'm not sure I should even say that because it shouldn't be a quote. And you can make ministerial changes if the road that was going to go this way goes this way. You know, there's some room there. But basically, this plan, we are bound for 20 years.
Thank you.
A couple more.
Okay, Julie.
I'm just trying to flip through and gather my thoughts. So we have other projects that have gone through the TIF process. Do those have a good reputation to then, I guess, pay back those loans and whatever happens?
Pocatello has done, I'm guessing about 14 TIFs since that law has been in place. Some have not been successful. It hasn't worked out. They've been closed. Others have been hugely successful. The North Yellowstone one is the easiest for me because it's current, where we put in, and that was actually bonded debt, but their loans were taken out, but bonds were sold. The infrastructure that is where Costco is, some of the road work there, the traffic signals on down Hurley Drive, pole line, all of the curb gutter sidewalk, the storm sewer work, the water lines, sewer lines, we're all paid with that tax increment financing. And now we've already paid it off early because it's been so successful in creating a business district where people have moved in, you know, and had a few closures, but it's been so successful in development that the value has increased greatly enough that the bonds will be paid and retired early, and then that money gets to flow back to the taxing districts. To me, that's really how it should work, and I see potential for this one too, or we wouldn't be doing it. This is one way to get this land opened up.
Excuse me.
I have a question. So you'd said before there were no bonds though on this property.
No.
So the developers are paying this and we're repaying the developers
Yes.
out of the TIF.
Yep, this is a reimbursement. We call it pay as you go.
Just because it's a really big project, right?
Partly because it's a really big project, and one of the things you really need if you're going to bond is you have to have a definite commitment of what's going in right now.
Before you start the next step.
Because you have to be able to support the bond, yeah. And this one, we all know it's going to happen, but it's also less risky. This is kind of a risk-averse plan. That way, if it does not occur, there is nothing that has to be paid with we don't know what. Usually, the PDA chooses no bonds. There have been a few downtown in the Old Town area. There was a couple different districts have been opened there. We did a lot of work in Main Street and Arthur, infrastructure and roads. There were some bonds issued in that one. There have been a couple here and there, but generally they are not. Airport has no bonded debt. Hoku has no bonded debt. The Naval Ordnance Plant one has no bonded debt. The developer pays and then the reimbursement flows.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
And I have a resolution ready if that's your choice.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, discussion on the item. Commissioners, thoughts? This is kind of a complicated, very thick packet, probably one of the thickest ones we've ever had. But I guess I'll bring it back to our main goal with this isn't necessarily to get into the nuts and bolts of how everything is functioning, but an overview enough to say that it's going to comply with our comprehensive plan from the planning perspective. Thoughts, discussion?
I will say, as large as this packet was that I was going through reading and highlighting and making questions, the more that I went through the packet, a lot of my questions were answered. So thank you, Melanie, for that. That was great.
I like the fact that it's risk averse.
Right.
That if the project doesn't go along, that nobody's on the line for a bunch of money.
Yeah, I don't think we, any of us have crystal ball, right?
No.
So it's a great way to protect Pocatello and Pocatello's interests.
Also helps so that development can occur where it likely otherwise would not. So yeah, they tend to be in good plans.
I personally don't see the material presented is very well thought out, and it's an excellent presentation. And I sincerely mean that. I have times because it's new for me, and so there are things in here that sometimes I come across and I go, I'm not quite getting that. So typically it takes a while, but as she said, once you ask yourself a question, you write down a question, and you go through, and you're reading more and more, you come up with the answer 90% of the time. So, thank you.
If there's any further discussion, otherwise I would entertain a motion.
I just have one question. I see how this protects us, but how does it protect the developers? I mean, are they just, if something project goes belly up, are they just out their money?
As with any development, yes.
Okay.
If they invest the funds and it doesn't work as they wish, then yes, they have invested that money. Quite frankly, the city has put $450,000 in the interchange. The PDA itself, funding the plan, has put $2 million in it. And the county has put, I think, about 1.5. So that amount, there is some risk there. Should this plan not work out, those funds also do not be repaid. So it is a development risk that I don't know any way to really obviate.
Thank you.
I will attempt a motion. So I move to authorize the chair to sign a resolution determining the urban renewal plan for the Northgate Urban Renewal Project is in conformity with the city's comprehensive plan. Do I need to say anything else?
I think that sounds pretty good.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. So it's been moved by Sanders, seconded by Ricks.
Yes.
Aislinn, would you call the vote?
Sanders?
Yes.
Ricks?
Yes.
Burnt?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
O'Connor?
Yes.
Satterfield?
Yes. Motion carries. Agenda item number 4, preliminary plat, Northgate District Divisions 1 through 9. Ken Pappy of Portneuf Development, represented by Chris Adams of Creek Hollow and Associates, has submitted a preliminary plat to subdivide 69.88 acres, more or less, into 47 lots. The property is located north of Chubbuck Road and west of Olympus Drive. So if we could hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Chris Adams, and I'm with Creek Hall and Associates. My office address is 611 Wilson Avenue, Suite 1A, Pocatello. And I'm here representing Portneuf Development for the application of a preliminary plat for the Northgate District Divisions 1 through 9. I hope you guys have a copy, I assume, in your packet. I'll just touch briefly on it. The staff did a great job of kind of outlining where we're headed with this preliminary plat, and some of the conditions that they've requested, I think, are very suitable for where we're headed down the road for this preliminary plat. Again, just real briefly, it is 69.88 acres. It's a total of 47 lots. There are lots 1 through 40 in Block 1 are zoned commercial general, and lots 41 through 44, Block 1, and Lot 2 in Block 2 are zoned residential, commercial, professional. Does everybody follow that?
Can you do it one more time?
You bet. So lots 1 through 40, which is pretty much from Olympus Drive west, partway, most of the way over, and north of the future Gold Star Drive. That's commercial general. And then there are some lots which would generally be just west of what you could imagine Fairgrounds Road extending further north. There's a cluster of lots to the very far west of the map are residential, commercial, professional. And then below or south of Gold Star Avenue, there's lots, actually 1, 2, and 3. Those would be residential, commercial, professional as well. And that got rezoned just recently to RCP. Just to basically give you an idea, Gold Star Drive will connect to the recently constructed Olympus Drive, and will traverse to the west, and will connect with Fairgrounds Road, extending north. And in our next application, it'll make maybe a little more sense, but that's where the connections come. And in the packet, as it's outlined, Gold Star Drive is a 50-foot right-of-way, and there'll be 2 12-foot travel lanes, center turn lane in there, curb and gutter, 5-foot park strip, and per application was a 5-foot sidewalk on both sides. And I noticed in the staff report that they've requested that a 10-foot walk be placed on the south side. And then Fairgrounds Road is a 75-foot right-of-way with 2 21.5-foot travel lanes, a 9-foot turn lane, and 7-foot park strip, 6-foot sidewalks, and a 5-foot bike lane. And that, I think, well, there was a couple other items I wanted to just touch on. That lots 1 and lots 3, and I think the staff report talks about this, we propose that those 2 lots would be dedicated to the city. Lot 1 will be and act as an extension to the open space just south in the proposed Division 1 for some park use. And lot 3 is kind of that small one, very, very far over there. That is will be used for a future lift station that will be necessary to handle the sewer, and that'll be dedicated to the city as well. Other than that, any questions for me?
Thank you. Are there questions? All right, thank you. Matt, if we could have the staff report on it?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commission members. Matthew Lewis with the city. I think you have the basic background. A couple things I'd like to just touch upon. The topographical slope for portions of lots 41 through 44 of Block 9 exceed 15% and therefore is subject to the slope development standards under Municipal Code, Chapter 17, and geotechnical and earthwork of the Pocatello design principles and standards with the Public Works. As proposed, the subdivisions will create 1 new public road to be known as Gold Star Drive. The proposed road will be extended generally east-west from Olympus Drive to the extension of Fairgrounds Road. Public Works engineering staff are placing R restriction designations on the following lots, and I'll just go through those for the record. Lots 1, Block 1 restricts access onto Olympus Drive, and as noted under Exhibit 1 of Condition 9. Lots 2 and 3, Condition 1, and lots 5 and 6, Block 2, are restricted to 1 shared access onto Olympus. That's noted under Exhibit 1, Condition 10. And then Lot 6, Block 2, restricts access onto Northgate Parkway, and that's noted under Exhibit 1 of Condition 11. One unique feature of all divisions is that the internal road system will be private, but the public infrastructure as far as water and sewer are private. The roads will be private, the infrastructure, water, sewer will be public. Let's see, infrastructure such as water and sewer will be provide meeting all standards as set forth by Public Works. Lot 15, Block 5 shall be dedicated to the city for access and maintenance of the public stormwater retention pond as well as public pathway. Said lot is covered in its entirety by public utility, access, and stormwater easement, and that's noted under Exhibit 1 of Condition 9. All other stormwater will be contained on individual lots as part of future development. The utility providers and affected city departments were provided notice on 1/23/19. No comments were received from utility providers. However, written comments were received from Idaho Department of Fish and Game, Southeast Region, and that's attached in your packets. City staff comments are contained in Exhibit 2. Staff finds that the proposal is compliant with all applicable standards of City Code 1620.050, assuming compliance with conditions of approval and with the conditions that are attached in the staff report. Optional motions are provided in the staff report. This concludes my presentation. Again, myself or Merrill will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Matt. Commissioners, are there questions for Matt on this? Thank you. Thank you. Very good. The items before you, any discussion?
Can we get Meryl up just to clarify that one
Meryl, can we
point?
have you come up, please?
Merrill Coyle, the Public Works Development Engineer for the City of Pocatello.
Go ahead.
So just a quick note, in the clarification meeting, we talked about the typo that exists in the what is this thing? Staff report, thank you. That the Public Works submits, it should read Gold Star Drive bike lane on the south side, not the north side. Is that correct?
That is correct. The memo does have the south side, and that's where it was at, so
Oh, okay.
that is correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Meryl.
Just want to make sure that's on the record somewhere.
Discussion? If none, I would entertain a motion. Okay.
So the only thing that I'm kind of thinking now, and we're probably too far in the process for this to really be an issue, but I remember when this was initially presented, a big selling point was kind of that this would be very accessible, walkable, pedestrian-friendly area. And now that I'm looking at the plan, I'm just kind of wondering why the majority of Block 1 was zoned commercial general versus RCP, because commercial general would not have any residential, right? So no above storefront lofts or anything, right? Like that. Just something that I noticed that I think I would have anticipated having in this plan.
Yeah. And I guess my understanding was that a lot of that would happen on the south side of the ravine there, and then go more into a town type
Gotcha.
setup on the north side.
Okay.
I think the concept, thinking outside of the box for sure on the style there, and understanding that our codes don't necessarily have much in them to accommodate a lot of that design. But anyway, I think that that's good that that will be worked out so that they can be able to create something that I see as an inviting thing for a commercial area like that. So.
guess I'll make a motion. Motion to recommend approval of the preliminary plat application from owner Portneuf Development LLC for Northgate Divisions 1 through 9, finding that the application does meet the standards for approval under Pocatello Municipal Code, with the conditions that have already been set before us by staff.
Second.
Very good. So it's been moved by Sanders, seconded by Ricks. Aislinn, would you call the vote?
Sanders,
Yes.
Ricks,
Yes.
Burnt,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
O'Connor,
Yes.
Satterfield.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, agenda item number 5, preliminary plat, The Crossings, Division 2 and 3. Ken Pappy of Portneuf Development, represented by Chris Adams of Creek Hollow and Associates, has submitted a preliminary plat to subdivide 64.489 acres, more or less, into 30 lots. The property is located north of Chubbuck Road and east of I-15. We can hear from the applicant.
Chris Adams with Creek Hall and Associates, 611 Wilson Avenue, Pocatello. And again, representing Portneuf Development for the preliminary plat application of Crossings Divisions 2 and 3. And as stated and shown in your staff report, this is approximately 64.49 acres. It'll be divided into 2 divisions in approximately 30 lots. And Division 2 is approximately 40.5 acres. And as it states, at Lot 6 and Lot 15, Block 5, are to be held as open space for public access and stormwater retention. And can you guys see where Lot 6 is at? It's Lot 15 is the big ravine area. Lot 6 is a small strip in between the small, what would be more residential looking lots. And that purpose of that is to provide access and keep that walkability happening, but also there's a storm sewer, or a sewer line that comes through there currently from Division 1 that's taking it out to a lift station location. And we propose that those 2 lots would be dedicated to the city for the use of those as designated for parks and landscaping and the stormwater retention and the utilities that need to be placed, in and through there. And again, just real quick, Hartford Drive is being constructed in Division 1, as you can see on your map. So in Division 2, Hartford will be extended west to meet up with Fairgrounds Road, which will be extended north. And then we have Max Loop that's proposed to take in the west lots that are west of Fairgrounds Road. Just to give you a quick, brief outline of Hartford Drive, it'll be 2 18-foot wide traffic and parking lanes, 5-foot wide park strip, and a 5-foot wide sidewalk. And Fairgrounds Road again is 2 21.5-foot travel lanes, 9-foot centered turn lane, 7-foot wide park strip, 6-foot wide sidewalks, and 5-foot wide bike lane. And on your map through Lot 8, we show a pathway easement, and we would propose to follow the request of staff as well that that pathway easement be able to be flexible and be able to be moved and relocated as we see needed, and that if to be dedicated to the city of Pocatello, and if that needs to happen, that we would be able to create another lot in that to make that dedication if necessary. But most importantly, that is flexible, that we can move it to the east or west, whatever direction we needed to accommodate that pathway as we need. That's all I have. Unless you have any other questions for me, that's.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah.
Matt, if we could get the staff report.
Again, good evening, Mr. Chair, Commission members, Matthew Lewis with the city. Just a couple things, 3 things I'd like to touch upon that hasn't been noted. Again, there are some portions of lots that exceed the 15% topographical slopes, and therefore they're subject to the standards, slope development standards under Municipal Code, Chapter 17, and also any geotechnical or earthwork that falls into the Pocatello Design Principles and Standards that will need to be provided at the final plat stage. Again, it's noteworthy for the commission. There are numerous lots that have R restrictions on them. And these are noted under Exhibit 1 of Condition 10, under Exhibit 1 of Condition 11, Exhibit 1, Condition 12. As noted by the applicant's representative, there appears to be an easement proposed across Lot 8, Block 6, and Public Works staff notes under the plat conditions number 8 of Exhibit 1 to remove the dash lines on Lot 8-6 or define. If this is an easement, then allow staff and the developer the latitude to adjust the final location of the easement. If this is a path, it may need to be defined as a separate lot. Staff requests that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the plat with Lot 8, Block 6, and allow staff the latitude to work with the developer to establish either a defined easement or a separate lot as part of the final plat. The reason that's important is if they were to add, if it ended up being a separate lot, then that would be a substantial change to the preliminary plat, which would require the plat to come back for your review. So this is an instance where some flexibility is needed. Nothing else to add. Did receive again a comment from Idaho Department of Fish and Game Southeast Region. That is in your staff reports at Exhibit 2. Staff finds that the proposal is compliant with all applicable standards of City Code 1620.050, assuming compliance with the conditions that are outlined in the staff report. Again, optional motions are outlined in the staff report, and this concludes my presentation. Myself or Merrill will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes?
So I was going to talk about this in the other agenda item, about the Fish and Game letter. Has there been any problems?
No, I think it's one that they just wanted to kind of bring to the attention.
Gotcha.
So I don't think that there's really any specific concerns other than just, please note that there's a gun range.
I didn't see there being a problem.
Yeah.
But no one has contacted you or talked to you or called the city saying this is too close? Or,
no.
Gotcha.
No. And it's my understanding that that the range actually as far as where they shoot to the east.
Either shoot east.
Or they shoot west.
So they're shooting south, they're a bad shot.
Yeah. So I don't know, but no, I think it was just one of those FYIs.
Cool.
Matt, and maybe this is a question for Merrill. Can you talk to us about, so the easement, well, the dotted lines that are showing in that Lot 8, easement versus lot creation, and why the city might want to have a lot there if there's a pathway coming through it, as opposed to just an easement that would go through that lot?
I think it's a couple things. It's wider than normal. I think it's at least 10 feet in width, and it's really for the public use. And so the location as it is currently kind of encumbers that lot, and it's probably more than likely will be moved to the east, but what is just a crossing subdivision. And then there's another lot, I think it's lot 6, that is for the purpose of continuing that pathway. So if that ends up being moved, then that lot will have to be moved as well. There won't be an increase in lots, but if that lot's moved, then there will have to be access across that to get to the other pathways. So I think that's the uniqueness in this regard.
So only if it moved over to abut these other lots that I guess front on Hartford Drive, would another lot be created? Because I mean, if a new lot is created where it sits right now, then you're actually creating 2 lots, because the one on the other side would then become a lot. Am I looking at that correct?
Yeah, I understand. So I don't see that happening. I think that it's more than likely going to be that one large lot with that easement / possible lot being moved farther to the east. Just because, again, it becomes kind of an encumbrance on the lot as it is currently proposed.
Okay, and then can you address the difference between why the city would want an easement versus a lot that was dedicated to the city? Is there a preference? I see that as kind of open.
Merrill can answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Merrill Quell, the Public Works Development Engineer for the city. The reasoning between that is, and for that flexibility, is for maintenance purposes, ownership of the ground and there. I know that there's discussions of this section of trail is who is going to be maintaining this section of trail compared to the other sections that is there. This one is not quite defined at this time, and that's why the flexibility. If it does become part of the actual maintenance responsibility of the city, or the council wishes it to go that way and the greenway, then we would prefer it to be on its own lot versus on an easement going through someone else's property and so forth. So it just depends on how the complete negotiations come out and how it's going to be owned. And this particular section hasn't been quite defined where it's going to be, what it's going to look like, especially where it's wider and so forth. So we just ask for that flexibility so that, depending on ownership, it can either be the lot. If it goes one way, if it goes the other way, it can remain an easement.
Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners, other questions? No? Discussion?
Can we have the applicant come back?
Yes, applicant, Chris, we have a question for you if you could come forward.
Sure. Do I need to say my name, address again? Chris?
You can just say Chris.
Chris Adams, okay. Okay.
So I have a question about Block 6, Lot 8. Are you allowed to divulge what that lot is supposed to hold in it? Like, what do you guys put in there? Not allowed to say?
Top secret.
Lot 8, Block 6,
Yeah,
the big one?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that it's really a matter of divulging anything. It's just the whole idea behind that is to be able to leave that unencumbered. And because of what someone may come along and purchase that at some point, having that easement going where we at one point kind of designated, it really kind of cuts through that. And so if you can imagine as a developer trying to finagle around that, we're kind of dictating where that's going to fall and controlling maybe that developer that may buy that property, where they get to put that. All we're trying to meet is a criteria of keeping a walk path that was from some other agreements that we had, so that we could keep that accessibility traveling from the wellness center through and over into the next area. And so we just need that flexibility to be able to move that easement or / turn it into a lot, whatever, as Merrill and Matt have indicated. And as of right now, we kind of are probably most likely push it to the east, so we only, if we have to do this, that it would only create that one extra lot and not be like Ryan stated that it makes a bigger mess with that being where it's at, and then it creates almost 2 and 3 lots through there. And so really just allow us to lay out the development in that bigger lot where it is recently rezoned to RCP. We can lay that out a little bit better and not have it just being dictated by a straight line through there. Does that answer the question?
It does. I was just kind of wondering from a design standpoint, was there a reason why it was there, or was it more of a convenience of just continuing and right through that road and just down the street?
Yeah, so pretty much across the street, there's, if I remember right, there's a kind of an access that comes out of the wellness center about right there. And so it's kind of a blank stab in the dark to say this is where we need to have a walk path. And as some interest has come to us, it's like, does that gotta be right there? So we're needing some flexibility to be able to move that, and without knowing what their plan is or what our plan might be, we really just need that flexibility and options to do
That's the way I was reading it.
Yeah.
More the second part, that somebody might be interested in it and it doesn't fit what they want to maybe have happen yet.
Yeah, it's just like any one of you wanting to buy that lot. I'm telling you, you have to put that path there, and then you're trying to fit some, where it's RCP, you can put some different footprints of buildings, and bigger footprints, and so that may not work so well, trying to lay all that out. Is that beating around the bush enough?
Thank you. Discussion?
No, sir.
A motion?
Was there a condition in there? Talking,
Just the existing conditions.
okay.
Staff conditions, yeah. Which I think overall were pretty standard, so.
Yeah, excited to see what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
Well, I motion to recommend the approval of the preliminary plat application for owner Portneuf Development LLC for the Crossings Division Number 2 and Number 3 subdivisions, finding that the application does meet the standard for approval, and it meets with the staff's recommendations.
Did you want to include
The conditions.
no one specific part where they have the flexibility and latitude?
Yeah. With giving it,
That's in the
It's already in
conditions.
there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in the conditions. So there's been a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so moved by Burnt, seconded by Moore. Aisling, would you call the vote?
Wait, who just, the motion, who seconded?
Moore.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Burnt,
yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Beverly.
Yes, motion carries. And that concludes our business for the evening. We will now adjourn. Thanks for coming.